Imagine you're 5 years old. You have a piggy bank. Inside that piggy bank is money. Not just yours, but money from your friends too. Your friends trust you to keep it safe because you promised them they could take it back whenever they want. Now imagine you take that money and lend most of it to someone else for a very long time. And one morning, all your friends show up at the same time asking for their money back. But you don't have it. That, in the simplest possible way, is how Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. But to really understand why this happened, and why it scared the entire financial system, we need to slow down and rebuild the story from the ground up. Silicon Valley Bank, or SVB, wasn't a regular bank like the one down the street. It didn't mainly serve families, retirees, or small local businesses. SVB served startups, tech startups, biotech companies, venture capital firms, founders who had no profits yet, but huge dreams and massive funding rounds. When a startup raised millions or even billions of dollars, that money often went straight into Silicon Valley Bank. For years, this worked beautifully. Interest rates were near zero. Venture capital was everywhere. Money was cheap, fast, and plentiful. Startups burned cash, but new funding always arrived before the tank hit empty. SVB's deposits exploded. At its peak, Silicon Valley Bank held over $170 billion in customer deposits. But here's the first critical mistake. A bank doesn't keep all deposited money in cash. If it did, it would make no money. So SVB took a large portion of that cash and invested it, mostly in US government bonds and mortgage-backed securities. Sounds safe, right? Government bonds are considered one of the safest investments on Earth. And that's true. If you can hold them long enough. SVB didn't buy short-term bonds. They bought long-term bonds, many lasting 10 to 30 years. Why? Because long-term bonds paid slightly higher interest at the time, and SVB wanted better returns. This decision didn't look reckless back then. Interest rates had been low for over a decade. Many believed they would stay low forever. But then inflation hit. Hard. Prices rose across the US, the UK, Australia, everywhere. And to fight inflation, central banks did the one thing that breaks old assumptions. They raised interest rates. Fast. The US Federal Reserve raised rates at the fastest pace in decades. Here's where the 5-year-old explanation really matters. When interest rates go up, the value of old bonds goes down. Why? Because new bonds now pay higher interest. No one wants an old bond paying 1.5% when they can buy a new one paying 4 or 5%. So SVB's bond portfolio, once considered safe, started losing value. On paper, these were unrealized losses, meaning if SVB didn't sell the bonds, the losses weren't technically real yet. But paper losses still matter when people want their money back. And then something else happened at the same time. The startup world slowed down. Venture capital dried up. Funding rounds became harder to raise. Layoffs spread across tech. Suddenly, startups weren't depositing money anymore. They were withdrawing it. And to cover those withdrawals, the bank had to do the unthinkable. It had to sell those long-term bonds. But selling them meant turning paper losses into real losses. In early March 2023, SVB announced it had sold a huge chunk of its bond portfolio at a loss of $1.8 billion. Then it tried to raise new money from investors to plug the hole. That announcement was supposed to calm everyone. Instead, it did the opposite. Because SVB's customers weren't ordinary depositors. They were founders, CEOs, venture capital firms, people who talk to each other constantly. Within hours, panic spread through private Slack channels, WhatsApp groups, and investor emails. Get your money out. Don't wait. This could be bad. And that's when the bank run began. Not slowly, not over weeks, but digitally, instantly. In a single day, customers tried to withdraw over $40 billion. That's not a line outside a bank. That's a flood. And no bank, no matter how respected, can survive that. By the next morning, Silicon Valley Bank was gone, taken over by regulators, the second largest bank failure in US history. And the shockwaves were just beginning. When regulators stepped in, the immediate fear wasn't about Silicon Valley Bank alone. The fear was simple and terrifying. If this can happen to them, who's next? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. SVB didn't collapse because it was reckless in the traditional sense. It collapsed because of a mismatch in timing. The bank promised customers instant access to their money, but it locked that money into long-term investments. That works only when trust stays intact. And trust is the real currency of banking. Now let's talk about the part that confused most people. Why did the government step in so fast? Normally, when a bank fails, deposits are insured only up to $250,000 in the United States. But SVB customers weren't average households. Many startups had millions, even hundreds of millions, sitting in those accounts, mostly uninsured. If those companies lost access to their cash, they wouldn't just lose savings. They wouldn't be able to pay employees. No salaries, no rent, no operations. That would have meant tens of thousands of layoffs overnight, spreading panic through the tech sector and beyond. So regulators made a rare move. They guaranteed all deposits, even those above the insurance limit. Not a bailout of investors, not a rescue of executives, but a protection of the payment system. In plain terms, the government didn't save the bank. It saved the people who depended on it to function. Still, the damage was done. Confidence cracked. Shares of other regional banks plunged. Depositors everywhere began asking uncomfortable questions. Is my bank safe? What happens if everyone pulls money at once? Are unrealized losses hiding somewhere else? And here's the lesson that matters far beyond Silicon Valley. Modern bank runs don't happen with panic and shouting. They happen with taps and clicks. In 2023, it took hours, not days, to drain tens of billions of dollars. Technology made banking efficient, but it also made fear contagious. SVB also exposed a deeper issue. For years, businesses were told, "Don't worry about interest rates. They'll stay low." Banks believed it too. So when rates rose faster than anyone expected, the system wasn't prepared. Long-term assets. Short-term promises. That imbalance is small when times are calm, and fatal when stress hits. Now, if you're wondering, does this mean banks are unsafe? The honest answer is, most banks are better diversified than SVB was. SVB's customer base was unusually concentrated. Its deposits moved together. Its risk wasn't spread across households and industries. That made it fragile in a way most people never saw. But the collapse did force regulators and banks to relearn old rules that had been forgotten during easy money years. Liquidity matters. Interest rate risk matters. And trust, once lost, cannot be patched overnight. For everyday people watching this unfold, the lesson isn't to panic. It's to understand. Banks don't fail because money disappears. They fail because timing breaks. When too many people ask for money at once and it's locked somewhere else, even safe systems crack. Silicon Valley Bank wasn't a story about greed or fraud. It was a story about assumptions, about believing the world wouldn't change. And the moment it did, everything snapped at once. That's why this collapse mattered. Not because it was the biggest, not because it was dramatic, but because it reminded everyone, governments, banks, and customers, that stability is never guaranteed. It has to be constantly managed and constantly respected. If this breakdown helped you understand what really happened and why it mattered, subscribe for more clear, calm explanations of the stories shaping the economy, markets, and modern life. No hype, no noise, just understanding. Because in a world built on trust, knowing how the system works is the real advantage.